Hello, how are you? Today I want to look at just a preview of my book, A Guide to Sources of African History, um, for advanced level examination that was published in 2018. This book is still useful, especially when you are looking at the first chapter in the study of Zimbabwean history, focusing on sources of history. Basically, we are looking at the key sources that every learner of history is supposed to acquaint himself or herself with. Number one, oral traditions, written evidence, archaeology, anthropology, um, as well as other relevant sources. So, for in this guide to sources of African history, I start with the conceptual approaches to each and every source of history, and try by all means to look at the merits and demerits of each and every source, and finally have a analysis, contextual discussions that are related to sources of history in pre-colonial as well as colonial history of Zimbabwe. So why this book is still very important is that at this point in time, I'm sure it is one of the areas that a number of learners struggle to, answer, especially when they are, confronting their advanced level examinations. So this book offers key case studies that are very critical when you are dealing with sources of African history. And in terms of even the definitions that are offered, I try also to be scholarly in terms of engagement, so that an advanced level learner can be able to interpret easily. So I'll just look at oral traditions where I make it clear that it is actually relevant and necessary for each and every advanced level learner to know the definition of oral traditions, according to Jan van Sina, or according to other key scholars who have contributed in the study of oral traditions in African studies. So Jan van Sina defines oral traditions as verbal messages that are reported statements from the past beyond the present generation. What is key is that a learner is supposed to be able to clearly pinpoint that these verbal statements go beyond the present generation. And oral traditions are sometimes defined as stories, traditions, or practice that are shared orally or through speech, usually handed down from generation to generation. Joseph Miller, another key scholar in oral traditions, sees oral traditions as narratives describing or purporting to describe eras before the time of the person who relates them. And we have various forms of oral traditions, which include folk tales, proverbs, songs, myths, legends, poems. These are very critical. And I'm sure in terms of merits and demerits, these are very easy to interpret, since to those who have been studying history since Form 1, they will be able to articulate and identify. But to those who are new, of course, it's necessary to go through this. What is usually lacking in most learners is the need to use examples that are very relevant. However, some of the merits that are important to know or to note include that oral tradition provides information about those people who were left behind in mainstream publications, and they also tell us much about a society and people who originated it, and allowed history to be stored and shared by groups who do not or who did not have writing skills. And oral tradition does not require selling and buying of information. It is a cheap way of reconstructing history, as information can be gathered cheaply. And it also provides names of certain kings who ruled in certain areas, which may be difficult to recover in the archaeological record. But that as it may, there are also challenges, that are associated with the use of oral traditions, where sometimes they tend to concentrate their attention on political events and on the activities of important individuals, hence becoming elitist in approach. And sometimes language can be a barrier when using oral tradition to collect historical information. And absolute chronology is also not often a major interest of the custodians of oral traditions. And there is not always, provision for dates, and generally it is subject to, the problem of memory loss, and the stories again may change, from informants for various reasons, and again it is also time consuming, especially in carrying out interviews. So some of the, prominent historians that a student of history has to acquaint themselves, as they are researching, reading on oral traditions in Africa include Thomas Paine, Louise White, Ruth Finnegan, Kenneth Odike, David Newberry, David Hemage, Ernest Chigwedere, David Norman Beach, Gerald C. Mazare, among others, especially when you are the likes of Ernest Chigwedere, David Norman Beach, and Mazarire. You are looking at oral traditions in Zimbabwe. These are very critical writers, although you can as well look at other writers. When you are looking at Jan van Sina, for instance, you need to acquaint yourself with just an understanding of a book called Oral Traditions as History, although there are other works that are beyond that. And New Linguistic Evidence and the Bantu Expansion 1995 publication, I think it's also very important to just have an understanding, just a summary of what the book says. It's very critical. Then of course we have the likes of From Tapa to Rhodes, 1000 to 1890 by Ernest Chigwedere. Then Birth of the Bantu Africa, the Karanga Empire, the Roots of the Bantu, the Mohenjo-Daro dynasty. These are very important sources that you can actually consult when you want to, familiarize yourself with oral traditions in colonial and pre-colonial as well as colonial history of Zimbabwe. Of course, as I have alluded to, the likes of Muswaro Ndakarepa, I think he has also contributed, an interesting again work, on oral traditions. And we have also other writers that you may need to acquaint yourself with, and these may also not necessarily focus on oral traditions but other sources, the likes of Stanley Mutenge. They are very important. So just to encourage researchers of history or students of history, especially those who are doing advanced level, to understand the issue of sources of history. I would also encourage to have an understanding or to work on an activity where you try by all means to look for important historians and find their major contributions, right? And also look at some of the debates that are existing in historical analysis. And the few historians that I have here that I would perhaps share out with you, but I would need you to actually go and find out more information about them. We have the likes of Gilbert Kitty, Sekeka Tsamudanga, Innocent Pikirai, Shadrach Chirikure, Gerald C. Mazarire, Ngwabi Bebe, Rungano Jopo. I would want to believe that if you are currently reading on oral traditions, try to read around those individuals and look at their contributions in the study of pre-colonial and colonial history of Zimbabwe. And I think for now, that's it. Although I know that in this book, A Guide to Sources of African History, for advanced level examinations, I looked at other important aspects such as visual sources, linguistics, archaeology, anthropology, and also important writings that have been written, and also the challenges that are posed in, as we use those various sources. If you have questions, feel free, of course, to post on the comment section or email bmaregedze@gmail.com. Thank you.